Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone here to pretty much a first with marketing and business students around the country with this Google Hangout. We appreciate, above all, having Daymond here and being the reason everybody's kind of waiting to hang out. I want to give you a little bit brief history. Ted has asked, and Ted is who I refer to as Daymond's guy in New York, because everybody asks, how does this happen? I go, well, Daymond's got a guy. I don't have a guy, so I'm working on that. But Ted wanted me to say who I am. I'm a high school marketing teacher, and the only reason that I'm into this is because I like technology and I like offering some cool things to students. So there's no other deep story there. How this started was last year, Daymond, I sent you a tweet on one of the Friday nights and said, hey, how about, at the time I think it was, I don't even think Google Hangout was happening yet. I think I mentioned Skype or something and said, how about coming in and talking to some of my students? And you directed me to your guy, Ted, in New York. And Ted and I exchanged some information and went back and forth, and the schedule just didn't work until the season ran out. So this year when the season started again, you know, I had Ted's contact information still there. We shot him a note, and he got a hold of you right away, and you were apparently more than willing to take a little time out of your schedule. And then we encouraged him to go to Google and talk, because that would bring more people on board if Google opened the back end so more people could join. So that's the direction that we went, and that brings us up to today. Now, Ted has given me about 16 pages of information about you, so I'm going to share some of these great highlights. First of all, everybody that's watching, and we hope that no other sharks are watching, we all know that you're our favorite shark guys, so we'll get that out of the way right away.
Thanks, I concur. Thank you.
Although I am going to ask you that question about the two ladies, so that's coming. Multi-billion-dollar brand with FUBU. Started it out of your home. Awards from Brand Week as the Marketer of the Year, Advertising Age, 1000 Award for Outstanding Ad Campaign, Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year Award. Just a list of honors and achievements. I know you're doing some writing and publishing some things. I've been hanging around your site checking that out. I love your expertise in the branding area, and there's probably some great things you can show there. So how about less of me and more of Daymond John from the Shark Tank?
Okay. So where do you want to start? It's such a, you know, thank you for obviously having me. I love the fact that a lot of students are utilizing Shark Tank as a way to learn about everything from marketing to negotiations. I honestly, when I created FUBU back, you know, actually I started in '89 and I closed it 3 times up until '92 because I was running out of money and I was failing. But I was doing something that I loved, so I kept doing it. But back then, if there was a Shark Tank, I would not have made it even past the casting stage. That's how green I was as an entrepreneur. So what I love about Shark Tank is the fact that you get to actually see what millionaires and billionaires actually will ask you when they're thinking about investing, acquiring, or strategically working with your company. So we're going on to our 3rd season, and it's actually shocking to see that people come on there and not know their numbers or not have any kind of understanding on what they need to do to make their company or their concept attractive to outside individuals. So my hat's off to everybody who watches it and learns about it in the classroom. You're in good company. I know I'm a right now visiting professor and entrepreneur in residence at Babson College, and they use it. Columbia uses it. Harvard uses it. Edinburgh, USC. So you're basically ahead of the game. So why don't we open it up to any kind of questions you guys may have about whether it's my history in FUBU or my other lines that I've owned over the course of time: Coogee, Heatherette, Married to the Mob, Crown Holder, Ether, Kappa USA, Ted Baker initially in the United States. Or we can talk about Shark Tank negotiations and how much I have disdain for my other shark panelists. So we can open it up to everybody.
I'm going to throw a question at you first, and then when you're done, we're going to go to Melville High School in Missouri and ask them a question. It's great to see other schools and teachers and faculty joining us live now. My first question is going to be, and this comes from my students in class, they're curious how much of the Shark Tank show is, and what you guys ask, is what you would legitimately ask, and how much is for entertainment value.
All right, none of it's for entertainment value as far as we're concerned, because that's really our own money that we're investing into companies. But if you look at the show itself, each one of those pitches take about 45 minutes to an hour and a half. So you have one of those entrepreneurs standing in the middle of all those sharks getting thrown questions for 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Sometimes you will see, like on the Copa Divino episode, where the guy damn near needed a shampoo to wipe all the sweat off of his body because it's pretty grueling. They narrow it down, edit it down to...
All right, here we go. We found the Shark Tank thing finally.
Okay, what I'm going to do now, Daymond, is tell everybody who is with us, if you can hear us, you need to mute your microphones because we're getting all kinds of feedback from you. You need to mute your microphone unless we ask you to join us with a question. So if you're paying attention and listening, hit that mute button on the top right of your screen, and we'll be good to go. So the exception to that is going to be Melville High School. Let's take the first question from Missouri for Daymond. Who's ready down there?
Hi, Daymond. We were wondering, when you're on the show, do you weigh your investment more on the person's idea or how they present the idea to you?
That's a good question. I think that what I've learned is we generally we invest in the people. When you're pitching, you're always pitching yourself. The only time that we don't invest in the people is when you see us say something like, well, you know what, I like that patent, I'll give you $1 million, but I'm going to fire you tomorrow. You know, the theory is we definitely invest in people, and then the next stage after that is we hope to hear that they have all bases covered, they know their numbers, and if they don't know something about the business, they have a line item in their budget to say, well, I'm going to hire somebody who knows that area of the business for me, whether it's accounting or distribution or something of that nature. You have to know your business better than anybody in the world, because as an investor, I don't want to come in and have to babysit. You know, I'd rather put my money in the stock market and lose it or make money without ever having to talk to the CEO. So when I invest inside your company, I want to know that you as the CEO are going to run it to the best of your ability, and you're only going to call me for the heavy lifting and the big problems. And my worst scenario is if I invest the money and I lose the money with you, I know that it was the safest bet that I can make and that you and I are going to be able to create another business down the road.
Okay, Daymond, I'm going to go to take some questions that came from your website and from your Twitter and from your Facebook feeds. We have a list of them here. Zach asks, besides both of your books, and parenthetically he adds, both of which I've read, are there any other books that you have read and can suggest that we, especially as high school students, should take the time to read?
Very good question. I think the two books that I read every single year are Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Another book that I find very interesting is Life is a Series of Presentations by Tony Geary. I do like Blue Ocean Strategy, which is another book. Also, The World's Greatest Salesman. All of these books talk about the same thing, but different aspects of it. Becoming successful. But I would think that if I had to pick one book, I would say it would be Think and Grow Rich, the original one by Napoleon Hill. I believe that's attributed to creating most of the successful people in the world do have that in common, that they have read that book. The original one by Napoleon Hill. I believe that's attributed to creating most of the successful people in the world do have that in common, that they have read that. A little echo there.
All right, Jeff, let's move on.
No. Next, do we have another question?
Mr. McCauley.
Where you go?
You with me, Daymond?
There you go.
Okay, we've got no sound coming from your end now.
You got it now?
Let's make sure everyone is muted again.
Okay, you there? Okay, we're going. Claudio wants to know what's the difference between $1 million idea that works and one that's a bust, from your ideas.
What's a $1 million idea that works and one that's a bust?
Well, what's the difference between your $1 million ideas that worked out for you and those that you hoped to be million-dollar ideas that didn't work?
That's a challenging question. A million dollar idea that works out. I mean, obviously, it's about sales and revenue. If a $1 million idea works out, that means that that we're exceeding $1 million in revenue and or profit. Any idea that does not work out is the idea that I'm losing revenue on. I'm really not clear on that question.
I think they're looking for the silver bullet, and I'm not sure one exists. If we all knew how to identify the successful $1 million idea, we'd all be doing a hangout for a bunch of other people. So maybe that's the bottom line there. I've got another one here. This one comes from Jared. If you have a company, and especially when the people come onto the Shark Tank and they propose their idea, what's a reasonable rate of growth for that company as they started out to shoot for as a goal in the upcoming years as they continue through?
Well, let's look at Shark Tank. I mean, the reason that people come on to Shark Tank is the fact that whatever they have, they cannot find financing elsewhere. And they want to come to the Sharks for the financing. You know, I tell a lot of people that you do not have to go out and sell $1 million worth of products to get investment from the Shark. If I find you and you said, listen, you know, I have this item, and I pulled up to the mall and I opened my trunk and I sold 30 of them in 10 minutes, I want in on that deal quicker than I want in on the $1 million, $2 million, or $10 million deal, because you've shown me that if you can sell all those items that quick, I can do that in every single city, every single country around the world, and every single mall. So the whole theory of all these scaling and these larger companies, and you've created so-and-so worth of revenue and generated that kind of money, that's not really interesting to me, because the underlying statement in there is if you created so much revenue, then why don't you have a bank financing your orders and things of that nature? You'll see that now on a couple of shows. People say, Daymond, why are you out so quick? But I see guys who come on there who say, well, I'm going to get Steve Wozniak on the phone. So I say, well, if you're going to get Steve Wozniak on the phone, and if he's not investing in your company, what the hell's wrong with you? Or if you get him on the phone, ask him to loan me some money while you're at it. You don't need to be on Shark Tank. So I really don't look at the people with these $1 million valuations. I'd rather the hard, hungry person with a great idea and a lot of desire.
No.
What? Let me ask you another question that gets a little bit away from this in terms of Ben. Well, let me go with Mindy's first. Mindy says, who's the nicest shark outside of the tank?
The nicest shark outside of the tank would be me. I think I'm a great guy.
It's a good thing all the microphones are muted, because there's a good deal of laughter going on, but not in disagreement with you. It has been interesting to watch. Some persona is in your face, and some are a little more pensive, and Cubans all over the map depending upon the week. So it's been kind of fun to watch.
I really think that, you know, to be very honest, I think that all the sharks are really great off camera. I think that people are shocked to know that Kevin O'Leary is a very, very nice guy. Just don't ask him his opinion about money. Other than that, he is a very nice guy, and all the sharks, we get along very well off the set, and they're all very nice people.
Well, I think it was very revealing how legitimate this is when Robert was emotionally touched several episodes back by a story that was similar to his own, and showed that emotion. I think that really gave a lot of credibility to the sincerity of the people on the show. But
you know, the difference with the show is that people aren't aware that, first of all, that is our own money. And unlike other shows where, you know, you put up a great number 8 or number 5 because you think the guy did a great job, you're not having to put up your own money. So when we have to go into our bank accounts, and, you know, I think we have committed or have made an offer up to $20 million in cash over the last 3 years, that's a lot of money. You know, people look at us as sharks, and we're mean, and we're this and that. It couldn't be further from the truth, and I'll tell you why. 90% of the money that we invest we're going to lose, but we still have a faith and a love for our community and other entrepreneurs and America, and we are willing to lose 90% of that money and keep reinvesting in people. Also, we're sharks because we're vicious to each other. The last thing I want to do is be vicious or cutthroat to a new partner who came to us and they let us share part of their dream and part of their life and their love for something to be a partner, and we're going to go and try to exploit that. So we are very personal. We are very passionate about it. And the good thing about the show this year is that now, third season, we don't know these people before they walk up to us, and we don't have any knowledge on them. They come there now knowing more about us than anything else, and they're starting to find ways to push our buttons, good, bad, or indifferent. And those are the amazing aspects of the show and what gives it such a personal feel.
Okay, speaking of being sharks to each other, can you look back and give us an example of that one opportunity that you missed that your other sharks took away from you that in retrospect you wish you'd have fought harder for?
Well, yeah, there's 10 of them. I mean, just the other day, this guy comes on with the stupidest idea in the world called "I Want to Draw a Cat for You." And he was dancing around on the show, and I remember him saying to Kevin, you don't want to pass this up, because when you lay on your pillow tonight, you don't want to see me doing the dance going, "I want to draw a cat for you." And that damn thing haunted me for about 3 weeks. And I was not going to get into the fight with Mark Cuban over a goddamn cat drawing guy, but I really wanted that deal. I just felt that I could take that cat guy and make him a version of Angry Birds. I would have everything from stick war applications to it. I would have teddy bears, and I would have him dancing somewhere looking like Barney on a television screen, drawing cats for people and doing Hallmark cards and everything else. So I'm getting actually angry right now, and I got to go and do something to get that deal away from Cuba.
I have to admit that's not the one that would have jumped to mind right away.
I like the stupid things in life. I told you that, if everybody on the show agrees on something, I think that's the lowest common denominator. I'm the kind of guy that likes to find the pet rock, the Snuggie, the FUBU, the cat guy, the Angry Birds, the weird things that everybody says is not going to happen, and I slowly integrated into popular culture, and it's surprising then, because if everybody thinks they know what a hit is, it most likely is not a hit.
Okay, then since you brought that up, I'm going back to the question that created that conversation we had before we went live. The question that all my students asked: why did you invest in those two crazy women in the last show? They seemed unprepared. They seemed nice people, but unprepared, and they do know how to blow through money. What caught your attention that made it that everybody else said no, but Daymond said, wait a minute?
Yeah, well, so first of all, it's a good point bringing up that when you're pitching people, everyone on the panel has a different need and a different reason why they invest in ventures. So don't pitch everybody with the same concept the same way. I'm going to veer up for 1 second. Cuban likes to throw a lot of money at several different things, and one will pop. Robert likes to say that if his kids think it's cool, then he's going to think it's cool. Barbara likes the down-and-out person that's going to really struggle every single day to make this company a hit. And Kevin O'Leary likes venture capital investments in 2 years and with an exit plan of 6 years. What do I like? I like brands. I represent certain artists and in brand building in certain companies, whether it's Pitbull or CeeLo or any of the artists I work with. So when I see a company like Go-Go Gear, I see two females that put $400,000 into a company, so they've learned a lot of hard knock lessons. I see a great product. I see it hitting a niche market, such as motorcycles. And I see the fact that they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears into it. And if I can go to maybe Latifah and get her to wear one and put it on HSN, that's a home run right there. Or maybe I go with Ducati and do a special branded line with Ducati of Go-Go Gear and make the new Ducati jacket, because a lot of people in Europe drive scooters and things of that nature. They were able to spend $400,000 and learn a lot of lessons. That's that's the money they won't be wasting, or the time they won't be wasting on my money. They've learned it on somebody else. So I don't just frown upon people because they're all over the place. And actually, after we spoke, those women, I think they were just under a lot of pressure, and it was a little scary for them, but they really have their stuff together. I can't say that the business is going to be absolutely a success, but I'm not upset at doing that deal.
One of the things that we hear mentioned a lot on the show is you have a product, but you don't have a business. Can you expand on that a little bit and explain the difference for our students?
Yeah, you know, not all people necessarily have a product. You know, when I created Fubu, I started with one hat, and it could have been just a hat company. There are a lot of people that just have one concept, and they may not need venture capital or somebody else's money to give them $100,000 or $200,000 and take 50% of the company. Some people just have one product that they can just keep chugging along, and they don't need any other help. You know, look at the Snuggie. It was a great product. I don't know if Snuggie's a big business. It went up and it went down, and whoever made Snuggie made a lot of money, but it was just one product. It was not an extension or a brand or a whole lifestyle. It was a Snuggie. So a lot of times people are thinking they have this big brand or corporation, and they don't. They just have a product, like the Pet Rock.
Okay, let's go back to your Twitter and Facebook questions here. Katie wants to know if you could give only one piece of advice on establishing a brand name for a newly launched business. What would that advice be?
One piece of advice establishing a brand name. Make sure that the brand name can transcend into different categories. If you come out with a apparel line, argument's sake, and you know, call it muscle neck, women most likely won't buy that. Neither will kids, because it does not transfer over to other categories. So make sure that the name is inviting to all categories, that you can then do everything from men's clothes to women's clothes to pet apparel to home furnishing. So make sure that your name is friendly to everyone.
Great. Christine asked, when you were starting out your first brand, you didn't have access to all the social media outlets we have today, which provide you obviously with some low, no-cost startup media usage. What sort of tools did you use to boost your brand at that time?
It's called hard work. I got up in every single person's face with a shirt. That's what I did. But the funny story is, for 3 years, I took 10 shirts, and I had a total of 10 shirts. And for 3 years, I would take each shirt, and I would go to a video set, and I would put it on a wrapper. And then after he shot the video, I would take it back. And then I would do it again on another wrapper, and I would take it back, and I would wear it on the date, and then I would take it back. And after about 3 years, I was viewed at this huge company when I only literally had 10 shirts. And the only rapper that didn't give it back was Old Dirty Bastard, but I guess you don't expect to get your stuff back from somebody named Old Dirty Bastard.
I'm not even going to ask you how you go about branding some of those names that those artists have. We'll move on from that one. I wanted to know, you're doing a lot now about personal branding. A lot of your writing in that is on personal branding. You're talking to countless number of 17 and 18-year-olds who probably aren't even thinking about what their personal brand is. What advice would you give to them as far as the importance of it in establishing their personal brand?
Personal brand is all you have. You're judged by everybody as your personal brand. I often say, can you put your brand in 2 to 5 words, your personal brand? So whether it's TNT, We Know Drama, TBS, Very Funny, BMW, Fine German Engineering, Apple, Think Different, Nike, Just Do It, Fubu, For Us, By Us, Terminator, I'll Be Back. What are the 3 words that represent your personal brand? At that point, the rest of the world will know your mantra and who your personal brand is, if you can put yourself in those 3 words. Now we're into the world of social media. You know, there is really no reason for the rest of the world to see the pictures of you and grandma and the dog around the fireplace. everybody is rating you and judging you. People come to my office and they always look for opportunities to be employed. If a guy is looking for an opportunity to be employed and he wants to be in my financial department, and then every single day when we go and look at him on Facebook, he's drinking entire bottles of vodka and all his friends are criminals, guess what? He's not getting hired. But he may say to us, well, why do you look at my Facebook page? I'm going to say to you, well, why did you put it out there? So we are all judging every single person by this social media, and do they collectively send out a message that represents who they are? Because nobody ever comes to you for money on Shark Tank and says, I'm going to take $500,000, I'm going to spend it on cars, jewelry, and traveling. Nobody ever comes to you for your job and says to you, well, I'm lying on the application. But your social media threads and how you're represented on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Bitter, whatever to call Instagram, is how we are looking at you and we're judging you. It can work against you and it can work for you. So social media and branding yourself is extremely important.
Okay, I'm going to take just a quick break and give Donna a heads up. We're going to take a question from her class next, and while she grabs who that lucky student is going to be, I want to make sure I thank a couple organizations that promoted this today for us to bring all these people on board. Two of them, DECA and FBLA, are both national student organizations for students with an interest in business or marketing and entrepreneurship. In fact, we invite you out, Daymond. We could use some judges at the international competition in Salt Lake at the end of the month, so I won't put you on the spot here and call you on an answer on that. But,
I think the snow is melted over there, so there's no reason I can't bring my snowboard out.
It's only melted in the valley. It's still great up in the mountains. Don't be spreading those rumors. We need that tourism revenue. We also want to thank NIFTY, NFTE, that teach entrepreneurship, and MBA Research. Those are some groups that got behind us along with entree-ed.org that teach entrepreneurial skills that helped us get the word out. So
great organization.
And we're going to skip right over to Donna's class here. Looks like we have a question coming from a young lady. Fire away. Make sure your mic's not muted.
Muted. Oh. Hi, good
Nice and
morning.
loud.
I'm Amy from Plymouth South High School, and I just have a question for you today. You started your business at such a young age, and I was wondering how you knew becoming an entrepreneur was the right decision for you.
Well, what's interesting is I was an entrepreneur since about 6 years old. I have always been an entrepreneur, and I actually thought I was special as an entrepreneur. And I've only recently learned that we're all born thinking as an entrepreneur. It's just that when we first decide to walk and we stumble and fall, our parents, our loved ones say, get up. When we first learn a couple of words and we start drooling on ourselves and we say the words and they don't come out right, our parents, our loved ones around us say, speak up and here's how you do it properly. But all of us are born thinking as entrepreneurs. And when we first start to tell people how we're going to change the world and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, unfortunately, there's a lot of people around us that say, you're going to embarrass yourself, it can't happen, you're going to embarrass us, don't do it, whatever the case is. And they teach us to not be entrepreneurs. And I learned at an early stage in life with my parents that I could do anything and everything that I wanted to do. And they always said that my day job will give me a job, but my homework will make me rich. And every single thing that I've done other than having a day job was something that I loved, which apparel and being part of this new music called hip-hop when I was younger was something that I knew that I wanted to grow old and die doing because I loved it. So I was just following my dream and having fun. And once I started doing that, people started to gravitate towards the message and what I was doing. And before you knew it, I had an entire army around me and rooting for me.
Great question. Thank you very much for helping us out there. We have another question from a student.
Hey, Daymond. I'm Alec from Davis High in Salt Lake, or just north of Salt Lake. But I have a question. Is there a single trait that the absence of the trait would help us succeed? And how would you suggest keeping this trait from affecting us?
Keeping the straight what?
Like, is there a trait that the absence of it would kind of help us succeed, and how would it keep, like, how could we keep it from affecting us?
Is it a trait that the absence of it will prevent us from succeeding? Well, you know, I don't want to be this old guy with all these philosophies, but it's really simple. The only trait that is in common with people succeeding is that you are doing absolutely what you love. I know that sounds corny. I hate saying it like that. But every single successful person I've met in the world is doing something they love. Now, success does not mean money. Success sometimes is somebody who is saving the planet, somebody who is a great father or a great mother or something of that nature. I know a lot of people with money who are absolutely miserable because they are not doing something they love. I closed FUBU down, as I said earlier, from 89 to 92, 3 times, and I kept doing it because I would have done FUBU for the rest of my life for free. My friends and I thought that the best we would have is a little store in Jamaica, Queens, where we would sell the clothes to people every day, and we would make the things we want to make the next day. So the trait of loving and being passionate about what you do is by far the only trait you need, and then you start to add desire and, you know, educating yourself on your business. But the trait of love is more important than anything else.
Thank you, Daymond.
Thank you. Great suit.
Thanks.
Got another question for you. Then we're going to go back to Missouri for a question from them as well. We have our friends here from SEO.com, and one of them has asked, are you positive overall in your investments from the show, or are you kind of in the red?
Well, you know, it takes 2 to 5 years for a business to really flourish if you're lucky. But the good thing is that these 2 guys that came on named Albert Tees, they came on the show, and they had a company where they were like the Versace of making teas. I had to opt out the deal because I was in another tea business where I was losing a lot of money, but it was a conflict of interest. So those guys were forced to do the deal with the devil, Kevin O'Leary, and they did the deal with Kevin. And then I looked at the product that Kevin had, and I realized that Jamba Juice has an initiative to move into the tea market. So I took a loss on my business that I had a conflict on, and we got to sell Talbot Teas to Jamba Juice for a couple of $1 million, and those guys became millionaires overnight. And as Kevin and I would say, we got to wet our beak a little bit on that, and we made a lot of money. So if you look at that from a profit standpoint, that's great. I think that the Litter Girls, who have Litter Body Jewelry, I think they're going to be a huge brand, and I think Al from Easy VIP is going to be a big brand. Other than that, the rest of my investments are either flat or negative.
All right. We are going to go to Melville High School in Missouri and get another question from them.
Hey, how's it going? What are the main things that you look for in a business plan, or when someone's describing their business plan to you, what stands out to you?
Okay, so what are the key things? First of all, is there scalability? Is there room for growth in it? Second of all, does the entrepreneur themselves or the CEO, do they have as much of the knowledge they need about that business down pat, and will I be babysitting them, or will they be running the business and just calling me, as I said, for the heavy lifting? And the third thing that kind of throws a lot of that out of whack is, do they have a proprietary product or concept, whether they have a patent or something that you know, we can defend, you know, legally, or we can go out and put into the market and we can license to other people. If you have all 3 of those things, there is a great opportunity to find an investment from myself as well as anybody else. Oh, excuse me, one more thing is, and this is almost always the most important thing, do they have any form of sales? I don't want to hear how you're going to change the world in 5 years, but you haven't sold anything today. Sell something and show me that somebody wants to buy it.
I've got a question here from a student who's wondering about if he has a seasonal product like skis. You mentioned the snow in Utah. How do you make a successful business if your initial products are very seasonal in nature?
Well, everything has to start somewhere. If you look at when I initially got backing from Samsung America, and people don't know, look, Samsung America, well, Samsung itself, they do $180 billion annually in business. We all know them from phones, but they sell everything from nuclear reactors to cars. They had a textile division, and I talked to the president of the textile division, which is a very small division, and they were doing mainly bubble jackets and goose jackets and outerwear jackets. And they needed their factories to run in the summertime, so I said to them, well, I got a couple of T-shirts over here. Can I get your factories to run in the summer, and I'll supply the T-shirts, and then my T-shirt business that was mainly just supposed to be a seasonal item grew from my T-shirt business up into a $400 or $350 million annual business. You have to start somewhere. So let's look at one of the largest companies in the world right now. You know, if 15 years ago somebody said, well, I'm going to take, or 10 years ago, excuse me, I'm going to take something, these kids, they want to hear music, and we're going to put it on an MP3 player, and you're going to take this MP3 player and you're just going to give them music, that's a small category, but all of a sudden they didn't realize that that MP3 player is going to sell more computers, and that computer is going to sell iPhones, and the iPhones are going to sell iPads, and the iPads are going to sell iTV. You always have to start at one small area, one small segment, whether you're selling social media to a bunch of kids that go to Harvard and they want to start there and you become Facebook, or the iPad, or the hats from FUBU, or the T-shirts. It's always one small seasonal and/or category, and then you sneak up on everybody else.
Okay, another question from a student. Then we're going to go back to, after this question, we're going to go back to Donna's class, and she has a student looks like he's queued up, ready to go. How important is social media? And I think we kind of know the answer to that, but more directly, how can you use social media in promoting this particular product? How do you make use of your social media efforts?
Well, you know what I like to say? I like to say that social media, you know, when big corporations bring in a bunch of kids or people from certain segments in the market and they give them $100 and a slice of pizza and they tell them, well, what do you think about what we're doing? I think you're only going to get a certain amount of information until the kids have their $100 and their slice of pizza, they can go home. I think that the good thing about social media is, argument's sake, when we wanted to relaunch FUBU, we went on to the social media world and we hashtagged FUBU, and we saw that the comments were, well, it's only for black people, or it's baggy jeans, or I heard they sold the company. So our education process was, well, first of all, it's not for just African Americans, because we would be guilty of the same prejudice that made us create the company in the first place we ever sold was Seattle, Washington, and Japan. I think we had to say that, well, we're only making baggy clothes for the American market, because in Europe for the last 15 years we've been making it form-fitting the exact way that the Europeans wear the clothes, and we did not sell the company. So first, before we come out with this big campaign of we're new, we're this, we're that, we have to take the dirt off of the current education. You look at somewhere like the Kentucky Fried Chicken, a lot of us, there's this rumor that they have steroid chicken, that's why it's so big. So you can tell me about all the other new stuff you're making, but we have to address the fact that these birds are not being grown with nine wings and 7 legs on them before we start eating them. I think that social media is very good when you want to start educating yourself first, and then you can carve and put the story out that you would like to, and slowly gain your ambassadors who are going to go out there and help you push this information. So I think that the best way to do it on social media is the best things to do, excuse me, are to investigate your brand personally or corporation-wise on what's being said out there about you.
Great. That's a great answer, because I'm not sure we do spend enough time teaching the listening part of how to use social media. We all want to jump on and post things, but not use it as a tool to find more about our company. Let's go to Donna's class again. We have a student there ready to roll. It's all yours.
Hey, Daymond, it's John from Plymouth South. Out of all your accomplishments, which one would you say you're most proud of?
Out of all my being a great dad, even though my daughters would say different. Other than that, I think that, you know, Robert Herjavec said it the best. You know, every overnight success is taking 15 to 20 years. I created a brand and a product that helped influence a culture. I did it on my terms. I never sold out, never did anything that I didn't want to do, and only now at my age, people are starting to realize and understand and appreciate the things that myself and many of my friends have tried to do, but I've done it on my own terms. I've never sold out. I've never done anything that I don't love, and I can go to sleep at night being happy with what I've done. I was raised at a certain time when people always said you had to be vicious, cutthroat, you know, nasty, dominating, you know, don't respect people, and I don't live by those rules, and I'm very, very happy with every decision I've made in life, good, bad, or indifferent.
Great. All right, thank you. Daymond, I know time is getting a little short. You have other appointments, so I'm going to close it off with one question before we wrap it up. You know, a lot of us out there that teach full-time, we want a day off every now and then. So when we ring you up to come in and substitute for our business or marketing class, you get 90 minutes with these kids. It's your one shot with them. What are you going to cover that day from a business and life perspective that would have the most significant impact?
What I would cover in that 90 minutes if I was teaching a class?
Yes.
It's a very good question. I've never been asked that before, so congratulations. You know, you may not want me to teach the class because I would emphasize to not always suffer from analysis paralysis. You can only read but so many books, but you have to have real life experience. It's great if you can get real life experience as well as a book and a formal education, because I've always sought after getting a formal education even after I've made it to some levels that people call it successful. So, you know, it's about having common sense a lot of times, and I've taught in many places where these students have this great analytical understanding about how the world's going to work, but they just won't go and become an intern or work somewhere for free for a year or 2 years to see how the real world works, and then couple that with the formal education you have. So along with talking to them about passion and doing what they love, and then talking to them about mixing the formal education with real life experience, those are the two things that I would teach. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying if you want to go to be a doctor, start doing surgery on people in some back alleys. I'm talking about more if you're trying to open up your own business and it's something a little different. But those are the things that I would probably teach. Real life experience coupled with passion and education, and then a little bit of just straight common sense.
Okay, great. Well, we appreciate that, and I'm not sure that your fear of us not wanting you as a teacher was warranted. I think a lot of us that teach these areas anyhow really believe that most of the learning happens when they leave our classroom and go out and try doing things. So we
I really love the fact that you know, I love what teachers put in. I wish I could be more of a teacher. I think that you guys are saviors to our community. I just remember all my teachers always had eraser stuff all over their pants, and they looked a little nasty, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah, we're using whiteboards now, so it's marker instead of chalk does. So before we head out, I want to once again thank FBLA and DECA and MBA Research and NIFTY and all those folks for promoting it, but also a big thank you to Kyle Garcia with Google, who went through unbelievable contortions to make this happen today. I'm not sure if everybody who's part of this knows how rare opening up an on-air hangout like this is. And then obviously, you know, you can certainly add to this shout-out, but the people at your Shark Branding back there have worked very hard as well. Ted and company have put a lot of effort in. So
yeah, I think, you know, I definitely like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank Ted and Christine. They are digital natives, as I call them. I'm getting to the age where I need to depend and understand on with the younger community on how to be effective. I definitely want to thank Google. And you look at Google, they don't suffer from analysis paralysis. They're a big corporation. They said, no matter what, we're going to fix this thing, and we're going to do it on the fly. So you can be an entrepreneur outside, or you can think like an entrepreneur and work for corporations like this. And they didn't say, well, Daymond, let's do it next week. We don't want to face embarrassment or anything else. They got the job done, and that again is like making a sale. They're showing that it's called proof of concept. It can be done, and we're going to tweak it and keep going. So if people like Google can do it, then you can do it with your everyday job at home and or your product or brand.
Great. Well, once again, we want to thank you, and we'll do something you seldom get on the Shark Tank in the form of appreciation.
All right. See you guys Friday night. Peace out.
We'll be watching and we'll be tweeting.
All right.